Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
And we get the back view of him. And I mean, it's just a mega.
52 yards is a long shot. Magnum PI, what we named him. No idea.
Just a magnum.
Yeah, just a magnum.
Come on, Cam, last year we said probably 150, mid 150.
Yeah.
Same doe from the morning come out with that 9-pointer.
Here steps out this 90-inch 8-pointer. You're like,
I'm like, okay, well, there's still a buck back there grunting.
Yeah.
And then out steps like another 90-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, deer, right there.
Yeah, like
and he's already
yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
He was literally 5 yards from the base of the tree. Could have been, had a buck down at 1:40 in the afternoon, back there deep on public. 3 does come out pretty early. It was like 245, 24-yard shot, sent the combat veteran, and I tell you what, man, dude, it just smoked. We always get so jacked up when the other person kills. It's just almost like we got it done.
Yeah. And when you killed that doe, I was like, hell yeah, man.
And we come down here to Missouri.
I asked Comey one more time. I'm like, is it a good buck? And he goes, yeah, real good, solid buck. I'm like, all right, boom. And the deer just drops. Sure. Super special to me.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy. Baller Rut.
This is the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes. A lot of cum in this ear hole. Got last breath in here too. What are we? We're five. We're
5 deep.
That's 10 ear holes deep in here.
That's a lot of ear holes.
It's going to take a lot of noise to fill that. We're coming at you from their studio. We asked them to podcast, and they said, yeah, come up to our studio, hang out. Got some gifts. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
These guys are super badass. We owe them a lot. We're getting to the people to make this possible, and we're getting to the show. Homie, you got the VIP shout-out.
Yeah, this week's shout-out is Alan Clark. Alan is a 10-year Army veteran and is a huge fan of us. Him and his buddies have just started their own YouTube channel, Blue River Bow Hunting. So, Alan, we appreciate you messaging, and hopefully you guys can get going there on your YouTube. And best of luck to you this year, and we appreciate your service there for the 10 years, man.
Yeah, huge shout-out to Matt. I know that you can't get out there and hunt, so we're going to try to put a couple down for you. A lot of doe, it's daylight, and that's all we got going on right now.
Matt's like, send it.
Yeah, Matt's like, send it. So what's next? You got the list over there. I can't even see it.
We'll switch it up here a little bit. We'll cover Exodus. This week I want to cover the viewing screen. That's something that I've been talking a lot about here lately. And we've been hanging a couple cams high, and that viewing screen comes in super clutch when you're trying to get the right angle. It's not just, a normal hang it 3.5 foot off the ground. You're pitching it down. You might have a stick behind it, or you're using a stick and pick that you're screwing into the tree, and that viewing screen comes in handy to make sure you got your trail cam pointed at the right angle.
Or even when we hung it super low, because we kept getting tips, and then we're like, all this bushes are going to smoke us, so we were able to knock everything out. Where before, you don't know what's going to get you. You just hang it. You're like, looks good.
Yep,
then,
looks good.
How many pictures I have?
Too many.
13,000 or something like that. Oh, 33,000. Way too many. All right, I got Buck Book. This is the last one, guys. Check them out if you haven't yet. They're helping out the brand. We appreciate you guys. Buckbook.com. What do you got?
Embry Custom Woodworking, ECW. The season's coming in. We're ready to get the grunt tubes out there and get them rolling again. So he's got that new design this year. So anxious to get it going.
What else? I can't see anything. I don't have the TV.
How about Last Breath TV?
Oh yeah. You guys want to hit your own ad read? That's gonna be the best read ever.
You guys are the professionals, but what do I have? 60 seconds here?
Oh no, you got as long as you
60
want.
60 seconds to
It's your
lay it
house.
out. Oh shoot. I don't know. What should we say about our videos, gents? I guess the biggest thing would be we try to put out a quality product. We try to kill as big of the deer as we can. We try to get and piece together the most high quality storyline that we can, and we think that that's of high value, and we think that you guys are going to really enjoy our stuff on YouTube and on Carbon TV as well. On Mondays we release a video podcast. On Wednesdays we release a Last Breath Live, which is our first attempt. I guess this will be our first year doing this, where we do a kind of week by week recap of what we're doing. So that's going to be fun for when the season actually hits and we start to kill stuff. On Thursday, we have Throwback Thursday episodes. On Saturday, we have our new episodes. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Is that it? Are we
Ingram.
done? Oh, Ingram. Oh, yeah, we can't forget Ingram, the OG.
OG.
Man. You guys got a new taxidermy sponsor, didn't you?
We did.
Yeah.
Super excited about it, actually.
Where's he out of?
Muscatine.
Muscatine.
Yeah.
Got an Iowa boy, huh?
Yeah. He's
Nice.
just got a really cool story behind him, too.
Nice.
But, yeah.
That was your last episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So you can check that out on the Last Breath Huntcast. But yeah, Ingram's Outdoor Obsession, Oneida, Illinois.
Doors are open, guys.
Yeah, he's
Start dropping them off.
he's been with us from forever. Huge respect to that dude. So
I believe episode 11.
yeah, in the drunk days.
Yes. Yes.
All right, let's get into the show. We're gonna talk. These guys are low key. You guys probably don't know this if you don't watch our YouTube, but they kill bucks in October over mock scrapes like it's going out of style, and I don't even understand it. They've told me before, but they got to retell me. I'm excited to learn something. We got a bunch of mock scrapes in this year, so we got to get the deets on what you guys are doing. I want to cover a lot of stuff. We don't have a script, so I apologize, but we're going to cover where you set them up, how you set them up, why you set them up in that area, and then just go over some of the success that you guys had off of these mock scrapes with cameras and with killing, you know what I mean? So go ahead and introduce yourself real quick. We got 3 of you in here. Go ahead and introduce you real quick to the listeners, and we'll get into this.
All right. Well, this is Garrett. I am one of the guys on the Last Breath team. Grant and I kind of started this, and I'm going to pass it on to him.
Sure. So my name's Grant Putnam, and like Garrett said, we started this adventure. We started filming our hunts when I was 15 years old, I believe. So it's been about 12, 13 years of filming our adventures for Garrett and I. And I co-host Last Breath TV with Garrett, or co-own our media company, I suppose. And we put a lot of quality content out on YouTube, etc. And I'm an 8th grade math teacher by trade. So that's, I guess, what my day job is. And that's pretty much all you guys, I guess, need to know about me. So I'm excited to be here tonight and talk about scrapes with all these guys and how you can use it to, be a better hunter and maybe be more efficient this year.
I'm Jesse, and I'm also one of the members from Last Breath. And I think we'll just end it there. So let's dive right into this thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so mock scrapes, October. We're talking about October kills here. I mean, season's here, like tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's time to really to go after it. You know what I mean? And if you're me and homie, the thrill of killing early is it's almost like a drug. You know what I mean? You get all the stress off. We're a $2 state, so you get that kill. You're like, okay, everything that I've worked for all year, I've got it done. Now I'm hunting a giant, or I'm going to ride it out and see what happens. You feel good, you know what I mean? You were successful. And I know everybody that's listening to this is chasing for that early season kill. So how many bucks have you guys killed early season in the past 7 years? You guys
Boy,
know?
Off the top of my head, I've killed 3. You've killed 2. How many have you guys killed?
Early?
In October.
I think, I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but I think it's like at least 3.
Yeah. So that's three guys, and you got, 7 deer, you know what I mean, in October. I got 2 deer in October, you know what I mean, and both on the same day, you know what I mean, but it wasn't off scrapes. One did hit a scrape right before I shot him, though.
Yeah.
So I do think that I knew that scrape was in the area over there, but it wasn't on my property, so I couldn't really get over there and scout it out, you know what I mean, or put a camera on or anything. But going to, when you guys are setting up these scrapes, what kind of areas are you setting these up? Because I feel like a lot of people go out, they're like, okay, there's bucks in this area, I'm going to put a scrape up, and then they get nothing on camera or nothing hits it. And I feel like 90% of it has to do with area, right? It's got to be in an area where bucks are, or I mean, are they hitting these scrapes in daylight on the edge of open fields, or what are you seeing?
Well, I think for starters, we'll start at the beginning before we answer that question. We think, and this is our theory, that there's really 3 type of scrapes that deer, and specifically bucks, use regularly that you see as a whitetail hunter in the Midwest. The first one is one that we call a community scrape. Now, this is that scrape that every hunter has seen sometime in their life. They're very large, they're huge, they're pronounced. They're the ones that when you come back home or you're talking with your buddies, you guys like, I came across a scrape that was the size of a deer hood, and it was just tore up. And so this scrape is a marking in the timber or on the field. That's typically they're in the timber that we found, but a lot of deer use them. Almost all deer actually use them. Does, bucks, and you'll see just a ton of traffic through there daily. Those are really hard to duplicate just because the amount of scent that's there and the diversity of scent that's there. So these are communal, and it's like the cafeteria. You know, your friends text each other all the time, but everybody sees each other in the cafeteria. Next, we have a territory scrape, and these are the scrapes that we typically try to mimic or duplicate, and what we have become most effective at hunting over. And that is when you'll have a mature deer kind of rifle out his area. That's when he'll start chiseling. This is my home for the fall, and this is where I'm going to be predominantly laid up until he starts to really seek and chase. And then lastly is one we call a dominant scrape, and these ones are confusing. You know, you've watched deer in the field, and let's say you've got several does and a couple bucks, even if they're younger deer, but you'll watch them like posture up, pin their ears back, and they don't fight because they're not quite there yet. But you'll see him just walk over to a low-hanging branch and beat it up and scrape. And now he's not marking his territory. He's just kind of saying, like, I'm big, I'm bad, I'm tough. You don't want to tangle with me. You know, he's not really looking for a fight. It's at the point where the guy, the 2 guys at the bar see each other and they're after the same girl. And they're not really ready to fight yet, but he's like yelling at him like, hey, don't you mess with me. So those ones are the hardest to read because you'll come across like, oh, there's a scrape getting started here, when really it was probably just a one-time use. The deer didn't even really leave much scent there. It was just him showing off. So covering those 3 things, when we start talking about where we put them, we dive into things as specific as not just location, but the tree themselves. It's really important, actually. And if you think about where you have seen natural scrapes, you got to roll back in your memory files and think about the actual physical trees, the species that they were on. A couple to stay away from are locust and hedge trees. So they have thorns. You have to think a buck uses his antlers and his orbital glands to leave scent up there. Well, I wouldn't want to shove my face in something prickly, And then something else to think about are really pungent trees. So locusts are very pungent, but so are walnut. And walnut are very prolific in our area. If you ever taken a walnut branch or a leaf and rubbed it in your hand, that smell that you can smell? It's almost sour. It's very overwhelming. Well, a deer really doesn't want to compete with that either because their noses are insane. So a scent like that almost overdoes it. Now, I'm not saying that they can't exist in these trees, but I'm just saying when I'm wanting to make one, I'm wanting to make it as inviting as possible. So I'm sticking away from deterrents that are naturally out there. So now that we got the species knocked out, our favorite is white oak, Grant. And I mean, we found that there's 2 big reasons why white oak are amazing. And you and Matt just started some on your Last Breath Live on the Inner Circle. And white oak are very malleable. The species itself, Quercus albus, it can take a beating. The way that it grows, their branches are not very brittle. And even when the winter months and the fall months come and they dry out, you can still twist them, and they're very hard to snap off. So that's where you get the iconic licking branches. And then the other thing is that if you transplant a white oak branch to make a mock scrape, their leaves stay on nearly the entire season. That's why a lot of waterfowl hunters use them to brush in their blinds and etc. It's because the way that their buds, those leaves actually adhere to the branches, it fuses there, and that's why they hold their leaves really long. They're very thick and durable leaves. So those are our target branches, and if you have natural ones, you're in the chip. So automatically, if I've got low-hanging white oak branches in an area that I know where there's either a deer living close or it's on a field edge or a food plot edge, I'm automatically drawn to it.
Okay, so we went over species, why you're putting it there, and one thing that we struggle with is we're like make a mock scrape, right? And it seems like from when we make it, do you ever see a gap of time until they start using it? Is it like 3 days, a week? I feel like people make mock scrapes and then they run a camera on it for a week and then nothing shows up and then they're like, okay, this is shit, and they move on. But I've seen it where you make a scrape and then like 2.5 weeks something starts hitting it and then it starts hitting it pretty frequently. Is that something you guys seen?
I think that's all based on the time in which you put the scrape out. I think if it's in there and it's totally situational, does the deer bed on you? Does the deer feed on you? Are they there frequently? But when I think about the times that Garrett and I put out scrapes, the majority of the time, if there is a deer that is close in proximity to that scrape tree, like you are for sure like, okay, they're getting here like 10 minutes after sunset and they're beating up this branch here, then you can assume, at least we will assume, on a property of 40 acres plus, that deer is probably living there if they're arriving within 15 minutes of sunset. So I think that's something to take into consideration. If you don't have any mature bucks or any bucks in general on your property and you're putting a scrape out, I think it's fair to assume that you're not going to see any activity on that mock scrape. But we've had deer hit our mock scrapes as soon as 3 hours after we've put them out. It just kind of depends on the time and how closely a dominant buck is bedded to a scrape that you're putting in. So we like to hold off on scrapes until about 2.5, 3 weeks before season.
Like the weekend after Labor Day.
Yep.
That's the time clock.
So we actually just put some out last weekend, which would have been September 15th, 16th-ish time for the first time. And so we already have some deer hitting them. And actually we found something interesting. One of our mock scrapes, there's been a challenge scrape, a natural scrape that is, made next to it, and that was within a day or two of us putting it out. So I think it kind of varies depending on when and how the deer is using the property, but I think it could happen as soon as an hour after you leave or a couple weeks after, a deer is essentially finished carving out his home range.
I think to answer the question, though, it is important, I think, to have deer in it as soon as possible because you want natural scent activating it as soon as possible. If you use a quality attractant, it'll last a long time without wash off or rain. But part of that is putting it in a high traffic area, right? We're not trying to duplicate a buck's territory. I'm just trying to get his attention. And earlier in September, you'll probably have a chance of getting those deer grouped up. They just stripped velvet. They're probably still in their bachelor groups, etc. But if you can kind of wait, like I said, around that weekend after Labor Day, that middle of September is when we really try to start putting them out, and that's when they're starting to break up, and they're still chummy with each other, but the big guys are starting to drift apart, and we're wanting to get their attention before they leave too far because they'll remember where it is. But to answer that question, I think it is important put it in a high traffic area because even if it's a little buck, he's in there reactivating it and keeping it alive. And then it's a matter of having a deer that you want to harvest or that's a hit list, find it. And now you got something to work with because now you got some data, right? And then you can start compiling other scrapes around it to really start adding to it. That one you start may not be the end-all scrape that you hunt on. But once you get a consistent deer in there, and you realize, okay, he's coming from the north every time. So you move down the field edge maybe to a corner, or you go to the ridge you think he may be bedding on, you plant another one there, and it's like, well, he's here a lot closer now, and he's here more consistently. Okay, I'm starting to step on his toes. And then you plant that one that's the lethal one, right? Because if you do this correctly, use the same scent as you go, and in his mind, he's going, well, that buck was on the field edge, and now he's moving closer. And right now, and how is he getting in here without me knowing? Yeah. And so now you've gotten in his head, and then it gets fun. And you complement it with a cellular camera, something gives you instant data, and then you just wait.
So there's really no rhyme or reason as far as how far you're going to space out a mock scrape?
So that one is kind of situationally based. If it's on a field edge, I mean, we just put out several mock scrape, quote unquote, lines is what we call them. So a line for us is like between 3 and 6 scrapes. And the distance that we separate them, it could be 10 yards, it could be 80 yards, but it kind of just depends on that first scrape that we put in that we're like, okay, this is the best chance that we're going to have to kind of set the hook on a deer. Where did he come from based on kind of our trail camera data at that first set the hook scrape? Now let's make some on this field edge that kind of dissects, we know we have another mature buck living here. We have one living to the east. We have one living to the west. This is kind of that fine divider line. So we have scrapes. We have, I don't know, as close as 10 yards, but we also, the mock scrape line we put out last week, we had one below our stand. We had one 10 yards up the way. We had another one about 20 yards around the corner, and then 60 yards on another scrape, which was a natural challenge scrape that we found in result to the original scrapes that we put out. So
I do think it's important to note, though,
depends.
like the one that's 10 yards away. So when we create some mock scrapes, and more times than not, often we'll create one, like take dirt, make it bare, create the licking branches, and then we'll move down a little ways, and we'll just expose the earth, and we'll make sure that the under branches are groomed, and we won't touch it. We're leaving it like it's like a car that's the ignition's on and the door's open. Like you got a guy that's racing next door, and you walk up. Well, you want to race too. It's just inviting. We're not putting scent in both of them. We're giving him an opportunity to come into a well-groomed challenge scrape opportunity, because once he has his own there, now he has a little bit more skin in the game to come back and check it, and. You're kind of creating the palette. You're not creating the scrape, but you're making it really inviting for him to make his own there. So you guys just put some scrapes out too, Jesse. Where'd you put them out? Give us the rundown.
So we found a spot where we thought there would be, there was it's a cornfield, and a lot of deer are knocking the corn down, and it's like acres, and there's probably 2 acres of corn that are just destroyed. Well, we found a good tree kind of out away from the field edge a little bit on an inside corner, and it just happened to be a maple tree. And the branches were a little high, so we went into the timber, cut a white oak down, and electrical taped it to the maple tree, made the scrape, and just opened it up and put some Gravedigger in it by Code Blue, and we already have 2 shooters hitting it in daylight within like 3 days of us putting it out. So it's just finding the right area and capitalizing on and making it work for what you want it to do.
Okay, so we got the area, we got the tree, we got how we're going to set it up. Now, I feel like this is where we fail sometimes and where a lot of people fail. Okay, you got the buck on there. How are you collecting this data? What's your process of, okay, I got this buck. I understand this is direction, we can red trail them, but what else are you doing? I know you guys are running on video mode to try to get some more intel, but kind of break that down for the listeners. And what you're not only getting pictures of this deer, but you're getting a lot more. Oh, yeah. So go ahead and break that down.
So we actually talk about this a little bit in that series that we have been creating recently on our YouTube channel called The Image Autopsy. And that's where we break down a bunch of these trail camera studies, essentially, so we know which way the deer is coming in, what time he's coming in at, what direction he's facing in the camera, because I think one of the most notoriously things that I think every whitetail hunter is bad at is saying, I got a big buck on camera, I'm going to go hunt in that location because I got a big buck on camera. So I think you have to take all those factors into consideration when you get him on that trail camera for the first, second, third time. But in terms of like getting a deer on trail camera and what we're like looking for in terms of like when we're, I guess, trying to move in and the tactics, I would say that if we could get a deer within, 15 or 20 minutes of daylight, whether that be very early in the morning before sunrise or very late in the evening after dusk, I think that that's kind of a telltale sign that they're bedding close and they're starting to be really angsty. If they're visiting our scrape that we're putting in, the very first thing they do when they stand up out of their bed, all we're doing is waiting for that cold front, I guess, to pop them off and piss them off and set the stage. So
I agree. With everything you said, I think the single biggest thing when you're running a camera on a scrape, which you should, if you have mock scrapes, I highly recommend to complement them with a camera, even if it's not cellular. And again, video mode tells you if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth 1,000 pictures. And that goes hand in hand with videos we edit and pictures we take, also with trail camera. So those 30-second clips that you can get, you read body language, you read his approach, you get so much other data other than just the picture of an inventory. But the single most deadly thing that you can have is consistency. Even if that deer is coming at midnight every night, well, this is a local stop on his milk run. And when the time is right, when he doesn't even know it's happening, but the daylight's lessening, his testosterone levels are building, and you're really waiting for, like Grant said, that precursor to make him move in daylight. He's a big old buck. He's not an idiot, but man, you've got him sipping the good sauce, and he is hot to trot. He wants to know who's in here making this scrape. And even though he's there, like a deer that Grant killed several years ago was a deer called Lucky. He's downstairs, 160-some inch 10-point. But that deer was there for like 17 days in a row. And we never once had him daylight on camera. We had like the biggest cold front we'd ever seen. It was going to be in the 20s in the morning in like, I would call it mid-October. And we knew that this deer had been in there regularly. So we took all the data from the videos that we got. He was an aggressive deer. He would always get very bolstered. He would tear the scrape up. And if there was any other deer in the camera at the time, he would have his ears pinned back. He'd be bristled up. You could just tell the guy owned his turf, and it bugged him that he didn't know who was in here doing this. So you read his body language. You understand what he is and what he's doing. You get in there when you know there's going to be a drive that's again instinctive, that cold weather, that time is right. We used a decoy. We got in really quiet, super early, and then we just imitated a deer scraping. Like Grant barely, I don't even know if he really tickled the tines, but we scraped the bark, we shook some branches, grunted. We wanted to duplicate like a deer is working a scrape.
And a deer that he's never seen.
Yep, he's got no idea who it is, Mr. Mystery.
But now he can hear him.
Right,
yep.
Right.
And dude, it was like literally 3 minutes. Grant had just hung the horns up, and then here he comes around the bend, postured up, pissed. 14 yards to the tree and nailed him. And that is how you just have to. I'm trying to I'm making a long answer out of an easy one, but just consistency, reading the data, and using your camera more so for data collection rather than just picture collection. It's really cool to have pictures of deer, but when you break them down, and homie, the podcast I just listened to, what it was your goals. You've been keeping a chart, similar like what Grant has done. You can be as analytical with this as you want. You have all of these pictures of this deer. Now you go back to Weather Underground or one of the other apps, and you can see what the barometric pressure was, what it was moving. You can see the wind direction, and you will see probably a pattern if you just start looking at this stuff and you go, man, he was here. Okay, every time he was here, this is a consistent thing. One of these things is in it,
I really like that you said that even if he is, at midnight, what I mean? He's consistently coming there, every day, every couple of days. And that's something we've seen. A lot of the deer that we kill, we have no daylight pictures of them. You know what I mean? And then, something happens, whether it's a rut or a cold front or something, and then boom, he daylights. So everybody says they do move in daylight somewhere, but sometimes I don't think they do. To be honest with you, they don't move 10 yards, 20 yards, but
we had Westside eating in front of a lift 2 for 33 minutes straight. He moved 4 yards.
Yeah.
In a half hour. Literally just a
how much
continuous
corn was
roll.
out there?
It was bushes
yeah.
that the cam was not in.
Bush cam?
He's pointing at the bush.
This was
not
a
on the
tree
bush.
cam. This was a
It
tree
was
cam.
legit.
Yeah.
Legit.
But
Pointed right at a raspberry, huh?
Yeah.
He's just out there, feeding, and everybody's like, oh, he's on Destination Food Source at midnight. Nope.
No.
Just in the timber eating bushes for an hour.
Not this time of day.
You know what I
or
mean?
This year.
So even if it is midnight, I really like that you guys run video mode. That's something that we picked up from you guys. We have a ton of cameras on video mode this year.
And just like you had said, Garrett, like that's something I've kind of shied away from in the past couple years hunting that, I hope to rectify this year is just don't let that midnight picture consistently get you down. Like, if you do have a cold front coming, like go in there and try to, imitate a deer being in there, or, go in there and be a little aggressive even if it's early. If you have the right conditions, you can go in there and still be successful, because just like we always say, deer do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever the hell they want.
Everybody's like, deer do this, they do this. No, they do whatever the hell they want. You know what I mean? And every deer is a little different. I think they have tendencies, but from the buck, homie named a buck COVID.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
COVID uses the same area completely different than Westside. Backwards. Same wind, using it backwards. No clue why. Westside's using it way smarter. He's older, but COVID's just rolling in there, daylight as hell, backwards over the wind. Westside's same area, bedding in the same area, nocturnal, always using the wind. So bucks just do different shit. They just do whatever they want. You know what I mean?
I'll say this. I think that if you run a lot of cameras, which you guys have a ton of cameras, like in November, a lot of guys will say, oh, he's daylight and it's time to hunt. And I think that is true, because you have a stretch of days in November that when the deer is on his feet in November, and especially if you have a cell camera, get in there and get him. But in October, I think if you have a daylight picture, it's too late. I think a deer will give you an opportunity, I'm talking in October, period, like even up to Halloween, will give you 1, maybe 2 chances. And you have to be there when he does daylight. Because if I was looking at our pictures, Grant, like last year was a perfect example. We had 2 different dates in October where at our lease, and one of the days we were antelope hunting, it was lights out.
I was gonna say, because I don't know how it come across it, if you guys shared it on a story or something, but there was a buck that hit a scrape like 3 days in a row.
Oh yeah.
And Cody and I were going back and forth. They're like, why are they not hunting?
Begged. I begged Grant. Jesse and I were in the truck like, dude, go hunting. Go hunting. Matt was gonna, and he's like, no.
Right on a scrape.
Oh,
on a scrape.
Yeah.
Now, here was the issue. So the first 2 days, there was a 3-day run in which this deer called Marshall, which our neighbor killed him, slapped him at 53 yards with a crossbow, was 161 as an 8 with a kicker off his G2. So a big frickin' 8-pointer. He was in there, and a deer we call Steven was in there, a deer with about 10-inch brow tines, also probably in the 160s, another awesome buck. And the first 2 days that we went in there, the first day Matt couldn't get off on time and get up to me on time, and so they were hunting on a 2-day 3-day antelope hunt. It was a long weekend kind of hunt. And the second day the wind was wrong, and they were like, go hunting. And on the third day the wind was also wrong given our trail camera data, and was like,
I would have stood in the freaking corn.
I realized that an opportunity could be had here, but it's very early, and I don't want to mess up our chances with this buck given the wrong wind, because on back-to-back days, those days 2 and 3, the wind was blowing right in towards where we thought that this deer was bedded, and I did not want to go in there and bust him out for the rest of the season, but hindsight's 20/20, I suppose. So I guess I should have gone. But I the first day that the wind was going to be right, I had the opportunity to go in there and self-film, but I just didn't think the film was going to be quality, and I didn't want to let these guys down with not getting the shot on film, because self-filming is a mother, and we're out there to kill them on video, and
Yeah, and I think
not ditch the camera.
I think you guys had just freshened that scrape or something.
We just put it out.
Yeah, just started it, and that was like the final hook for me. I'm just like, next year we got to get our shit together and get it going,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, deer daylight in October, prime. I'm just like, let's spend the money and just do it. So thank you for that. Hopefully it's going to pay off here.
And I want to just full disclosure really quick, and I know Jesse's got something to say, but we don't put all of them out in September. So that with that case, we had been running cameras regularly, and I'm like, all right, this deer moved in, he carved out his area, and then we went and put the scrape in. September ones we're trying to pull them out and make them appear, where if you get into that early October scrape that you're making a mock, it's because you have some reason to put it there. you've got those pictures of the deer, and you're like, man, I think he's bedding here, and I can get here without boogering him, and I'm going to plant a seed. So that's what that scrape was. Grant and I had groomed this entire edge of the field, just like similar to what you and Matt have done at your scenario, Jesse. And we had pictures of this deer in velvet. He stripped it, and he stayed, which is very rare. So we went hardhorn, Steven did, and then put it in. Well, lo and behold, Marshall had moved in, which was a cherry on top, and that's that. I don't want to give the illusion that all the scrapes we put out are in September. Like, we do keep some cocked and locked and ready to put them in October, early October.
Go ahead. It's past. Go.
He said it's gone.
It's gone. I forgot it. That's me on the podcast. I just forget how to pronunciate words most of the time. All right, so one question that I have personally, and I'm sure some listeners have also, you're running these mock scrapes, maybe close to regular scrape or something. Are you setting up a scrape within shooting distance every time, or are you?
If we
and
can.
then on top of that, your cameras. So 2-part questions. How are you running these cameras right on top of these scrapes, 10 yards off these scrapes? Are you trying to hide them anyways? Are you noticing that they're finding them? So cover the first one. So if you're setting up 4 or 5 scrapes, you're always putting a scrape within shooting distance, correct?
Yes and no. I think it depends on. Most of the time, yes, if we can make the situation work, but it all depends on where that buck is bedding according to where your stand location is. So I killed a buck, well, it's actually the last buck I killed. We basically knew where he was bedding. Our tree stand was placed in a specific area, and we were in between his bedding and the scrape. So he had to walk past us to go to the scrape, and the scrape was like 60 yards behind us. So, I mean, technically, if you wanted to shoot 60 yards, you could, but...
You'd kind of made a destination for
right,
him,
yeah,
knowing
yeah.
where he's bedding. You're in between.
Exactly. We cut him off at the pass to say, but most of the time, yes, within 25 to 30 yards, most of the time closer. But, yeah.
I feel like where I, like, in my mind, like, if I wasn't positive of where a buck was bedding and I had some scrapes, I'd be afraid to put one right by my stand because I don't know how he's going to access that, you know what I mean? So, if in my mind, if you could have one that was 60, 70, where you knew that you were going to be, if he's bedding in 2 different places, you knew that you'd be safe there from your stand, then you could grunt or call or at least get a visual and then verify, okay, he's coming from the south, then make your move. But that's why I'm not killing shit, because I'm always waiting for someone to show me something instead of hopping on it before,
right?
You know what I mean? But that's me being safe. That's why I want to know, are you setting it up right there? But you're running the trail cam daddy, so you kind of have an idea of how they're accidents. But for a guy that's like, something's hitting this scrape, I'm not sure where he's bedding, you know what I mean? I feel like that would be pretty raw to just be like, 20 yards from the stand, here we go. I don't know where this thing's coming from, but it's going to hit it eventually.
I would say that almost all of ours that Grant and I put out are within sight distance, like Jesse was saying. Because I will say this, just what you were talking about being safe, you can be cautious, but a deer that's going to a scrape is also really callable because he wants to know what's making it, and just like we talked about before, he doesn't know. So like Josh was a deer that I killed really early in October, and we were able to watch him get out of his bed the night before, and that's when we moved in. But we had a scrape there that we got him on, and one little grunt brought him right over. I mean, on a march.
October 8th,
Yeah.
9th.
I've rattled bucks in October. Like,
Yeah.
seen them in the morning, not sure what it is, tickled a little bit, and they've come over, and I've got a better look at them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I don't know if it's going to work on a giant old maturity, or you know what I mean, but I've done it with 3.5-year-olds and been like, man, was that a shooter or not? I want a second look, you know what I mean? And they've come over, and then that one I killed on October 15th, I think he got bumped by a combine, was completely out of his element. I grunted at him. He snort-wheezed at me, postured, did a scrape. October 15th, he was ready to battle.
Nice.
But I think he was just had no clue where he was at and was like, I'm about to whoop some ass and make sure I can hang out around here. You know what I mean? But had no trail cam picture of that deer. Killed him, what was like 4 in the afternoon on October 15th. It's like 55, 60 degrees out, just boom, he's here. You know what I mean?
And so that's what I'm saying. Those October deer, when they daylight, they're not, that deer shouldn't have been there, right?
No. Yeah.
But you were there the time that he did.
Yeah.
I think those October daylight bucks, like, you got to be there when they show up because it's not going to happen very often.
No.
But put that in November 15th, that deer would be there for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Traditionally.
We're seeing, like, where we're hunting, the bucks are there for like 7 days in that area. You know what I mean? It's just insane how long they're hanging out. But
we literally get to see them come in, and then they're there for a week.
And then they roll out. We get to see them roll
10
out.
days, gone.
It's insane. That's just running so much trail cams. You catch them, and then you get that rolling out picture, and then he never shows back up. You're like, okay, we know exactly what you're going to do next year. Close to it. You know what I mean? We got a way better idea. But, okay, now, what was my second part? Oh, are you hiding the cams? How far away are you putting them? What's your game plan there?
So want to make sure that this is well known. We're hunting all private, so we're not on public like you guys are, and so we don't have to quote unquote hide them.
I was just talking about
you guys are
from the deer, because I feel like when we put the mobile on the scrape at the scrape tree, right on the tree, we have less deer hit it than if we move it away. And we moved it away this year because the first year we had it a tree back.
Yeah, I feel like the first year was a lot better.
And it was better. And then last year we moved it on the tree, and it was pretty garbage. And we had the same bucks that should have been hitting it, and they weren't. And they did hit it a couple times, and then they were done.
They did, and then I feel like once past October 20th last year, they just were literally not even focusing on that, and were just worried about getting back into cover and just bypassing that tree. Where the year before, when we had a tree back, not the best for pictures, but the deer were hitting it, and we were at least getting intel. Well, there's a buck there, but can't see what buck it is because just the situation of how it's set up. So then that's why we try to move it up.
Yeah,
on the other tree.
Now. Yeah.
So now this year we have a pick and stick with a mobile 15 yards back.
Yeah, and I mean it's early, but we've had deer hitting it, and they're not looking at the cam. I feel like every deer when it's on that tree, we're like looking right at that cam. So I didn't know if that's something you've got to notice. And also, I think that had to do something with the neighbor moving that ladder stand really close to there, changing the way that they're moving. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say if it was them seeing the cam, but I know a lot of people say that they see the cams. We have deer that freak out, and then we have like Westside 33 minutes 3 foot in front of the camera.
Yeah,
where you can see like half of his rack for part of it. You know what I mean?
He's that close.
Yeah, he's that close.
Jesus.
I'll show you when we get
and
done.
And the video is like nonstop, like 30 seconds, 33 minutes of 30-second videos.
There goes a card.
yeah. You know what I mean? So
on video.
Is that something that you guys are seeing, or are these bucks not caring a lot?
I want to let Jesse talk on this because those guys get some of the best trail camera video.
Yeah, you
of
do
deer.
get some
They do.
insanely good scrape video.
But I will say this: we almost never put it on the scrape tree for 2 reasons. First, like scrape branches should be really low. I mean, and because we didn't get to talk about the construction of how we do it, but really our branches are so low you would have to have the camera pretty low to catch it. So it's bad for intel. But then again, just like what you're saying, when a deer approaches a scrape, he's literally looking right at it. So if the IR lights turn on, if it makes a noise, I mean, that's a dead giveaway. He's staring right at it. But we always, like, and I'm going to let you talk about this because we put stick-and picks out, usually Grant and I do, to horizontally film it. And, I mean, what's your go-to setup on scrapes?
So usually, and like, if you guys know us, you know the buck and Phantom, but specifically the buck, like Matt and I put that scrape out, and within 4 hours, that buck was there. So that was the first deer on the card, and it's a 16-inch drop tine buck. But anyway, it was on the next tree over from the scrape. So it wasn't on the scrape tree. It was just off of, and the same way with Phantom, when he approached it from, horizontal and looped in, and he didn't have to stare right at it. But yeah, so just not on the same tree, because most of the time, like Garrett said, those scrape branches are so low that the wind's going to blow, it's going to trigger the camera, and you're going to get a bunch of misses. If you back it up maybe 3, 4, 5 yards, you might they won't be so low as the camera looks at it, and the deer aren't going to be staring at it in the face.
Yeah, that's where we messed up, because I feel like if a deer's approaching a scrape, he's on high alert. Like, he's smelling, he's looking around, seeing if it's been hit, and he walks up there and boom, there's a camera. He's like, well, shit, that wasn't there, a couple days ago. But I feel like people see a scrape, and I was guilty of it in the past. They're like, oh, got to get a camera right on this thing, you know what I mean? And then you might get like 1 or 2 pictures of them, and then you don't get anything else. So you're like, what the hell? And I feel like a lot of it is the camera being right there, or you're sitting there. I don't know how much that plays a factor in scrapes, but it doesn't seem like to us that the scent really matters. We'll pull cams, and then a deer will be there like 3 hours later. It's weird. But then you're hunting, it's like they almost know that it's old. They're like, oh, it's 3 hours old. We're good. You know what I mean?
I think there's something to be said about the contamination factor just with, human scent in general. If you guys think about where you store your trail cameras, I mean, we're all big believers in, we try to be as scent free as possible when we go in there and also play the wind. Like, I feel like the 4 of us, the basic mindset is across the board, whatever we can do to get an advantage on a deer, we're going to do it. So all 4 of us take scent showers and spray down and make sure we're as scent free as possible. And I think if you think about a trail camera and how it's stored in the off season, what's going to sit in your garage, and even if it's in a tote, it's going to collect scent from that tote and from the other cameras. So I think there's something to be said about not necessarily putting it on that scrape tree, the actual tree that the scrape is under. For like Jesse said, these scrapes are 3 feet off the ground. You got to think of the height of a mature buck and when they're going to rake it and get into it, 3-4 feet max. It's not like they're seeing eye to eye with us at like about 6 feet tall. So I do think there's a factor there of kind of cheating it off the scrape tree and using a stick and pick or a fence post or something like that to get it off of that tree. So like you said, when they're approaching the scrape, they're not looking directly at it. They're not being freaked out when they're scraping that, oh, there's a light flashing at me or something like that. Because most lower grade trail cameras, like guys like all of us, like we have a couple lower grade trail cameras. Everybody does, because nobody can afford the $400 like Reconyx or something like that to put on every tree 30 times. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. And so we have 1 or 2 that do have like a white flash or an infrared flash that could spook a deer, like you said, Cody. So we try to cheat it off if possible.
Yeah, I mean, 5 yards, you got to think the scent factor is a lot less than 1 yard, I mean, right in his face, and he's trying to figure it out. So, you got all the intel, you got this buck coming in, you got the scrape. How frequent are you guys refreshing that scrape? If he's doing it himself, are you guys even going in there and messing with it? Or if you got one that died, maybe you had bucks hitting it for a while and it dies, are you going back in there and hitting it again? What's your process there? This could be in season, before season. What do you got going on there?
I mean, I'll speak on our behalf, but typically once a deer starts to use it and freshen it, we're done. We've got him. There's no reason to go in there and mess it up. If he's maybe being a little bit less consistent than we want, or potentially if it does go cold for a couple days, I'll give it a second chance, and we'll go in and freshen it back up. This is a great opportunity when season is in, and you're either going to go walk past it to go hunt it, or you're going to go buy it anyway. Often, more times than not, these smaller pieces, you do walk through some of these areas, so it's a good chance to freshen it up, check the camera, boom, get on the way. But if he's in there and he's liking it, don't touch it. Leave it alone. He's happy. That's all you need to do.
I feel like a lot of people don't do that. I feel like a lot of people are like,
oh, we're going to piss him off.
I need to get in there and freshen it up.
How many times did you freshen that scrape?
I mean, just a couple, but I will say that like we might not necessarily freshen it up, but if we walk past it and a buck is using it and we walk past it and there's leaves in it, I'll kick the leaves out and not put any scent in it just to say, hey, it's a visual factor of something's here, but I don't smell anything new, but I'm gonna piss in it anyways.
I feel like there's a lot of guys out there that are like, I got this buck in it, every 2 weeks I'm gonna go out there and I don't know if that's like mock scrape companies trying to sell more product or what it is. I don't know what it is, but I feel like a lot of people do that. I see a lot of that on social. They're like, we got this mock fired up. We're going to keep it going. And I feel like if a buck's in there hitting it, it's pretty solid.
He's happy, man. Yeah. Don't mess up his groove, solid.
So let's kind of flip to a different end of this spectrum here. Let's say you're going into a new area and you're not really sure if there's deer in the area and you do have a mock scrape. How long would you entertain running that scrape?
I would say for us, it kind of depends on the time of the year. And I know that's a, kind of wish-washy kind of a vanilla answer, but if it's in October and there's no deer that has hit it by October 25th, I would say abandon ship. I think for us, a lot of that tipping point happens like the 20 to the 25th of October. And if there's a deer that's fired up that's going to create, like Garrett said earlier in the podcast, a territory scrape where they're carving out a net, I think that they would have already done it by that point. We would have already had a trail camera data of that deer at that point. So if we go in there and throw a new one in, and if he hasn't touched it or there hasn't been any activity on it on October 25th, then that just means we need to reevaluate our game plan. We need to rehang a camera. That is kind of my opinion on that, kind of based
100%.
up on the data that we've collected.
Because most of our opportunities happen between, I would say, consistently like the 12th and the 20th it's like the October lull that people think about, but that cold front in there seems to be our most deadly one for mock scrapes specifically. And something we haven't talked about yet is like, you guys literally just did this, Jesse, but if you hunt a farm, you'll know there'll be scrapes in certain areas every single year. And knowing that, like whether you've visually seen it last year, you mark it on your GPS, on your Onyx hunt stand, whatever, but beating those deer to it make it way more lethal. Like the scrape that we used to kill Lucky, it was his scrape the year before. So again, we're hunting private. We understood this deer was 4. He had his own home area. We knew that we had him on camera on this scrape as a 4-year-old. Well, we beat him to it this year, and that just, you're adding up all these little details to stack to your, lethality here. You're taking into consideration his mood, his mindset, where it is. You're making sure it's the right tree. And now you already know all this stuff. It's in the right place, the right tree, the right location, height, etc., because you did it there last year. Mm-hmm. So sometimes mock scrapes don't have to be virgin dirt. They'll look like it maybe when you go to make it in, but he had one here last year. There was a big one here in this corner last year. Beat him to it.
Yeah. I killed a 9-pointer on public. I don't know what year that was.
Had to be 15 or 16.
Yeah, 15. Anyways, on Halloween night, and I had made a scrape like 2 or 3 days before, and that deer had rubbed like 7-8 trees around this scrape. Was just absolutely pissed, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm killing this deer tonight." Seen one doe and that buck going right to that scrape all night and shot him. You know what I mean? So, one mock scrape. I think I used. Was it Conquest? What was it? I can't remember. It was, it was something that was hot at that time. I didn't know shit about scents. I've never been a giant scent guy, you know what I mean? But I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Right.
But that's like the only deer I've ever like killed off of a mock scrape. But it was super cool to piss a deer off enough that in the last 2 days all this stuff popped up, and you're like, man, if he's making this much sign, this he's in the area, you know what I mean? He's super pissed, and then to kill him, it was super cool. But long story on that deer. Savagery.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
Yeah, I hunted a public that is just absolute. I had my stand took down and a note placed on it with a phone number to go find the rest of my stand. Michigan guys are brutal, dude.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I ended up killing the deer because he took my stand down. So thank you, appreciate it.
Your hater was your motivator on that deal.
Yeah. All right, man. You got anything else? You got any driving questions that you need to get in?
Yeah, just one more is, will you guys ever shift to estrus scent in a scrape at all? I know you said there October 25th, you're kind of abandoning ship if it's not going. So
we'll keep our scrapes freshened through, I would say the 5th of November, but I would say that's when we kind of stop freshening them on our way in and out of hunting. I think that was one of your questions earlier was, how do we freshen these scrapes? How do we go about it? I think it's safe to say that most deer hunters, if they're hunting a property over 10 acres, they're going to have multiple stand locations for, a variety of winds. And for Garrett and I, on our way in and out, that's when we freshen scrapes. That's when we check cameras, etc. So we're nice and quiet, spraying our boots down and everything like that, trying to not scent up the area too much. And we're doing that in and out. But after November 5th, unless there's a deer that returns to that scrape that we're like, okay, he survived gun season. For Illinois, gun season's going to fall between the 15th and like the 24th, somewhere in that time frame, depending on the date and how the calendar lays out that particular year. After that, if they return to a scrape like post-rut, we're just kind of using that to say, okay, thank goodness they're still alive, like they made it through. It's not necessarily like a let's pattern the deer after this and let's try to kill them on a scrape in late November or earlier December. It's more of, okay, he lived. But I would say November 5th, we're kind of stopping our usage of scrapes and freshening them on our part.
To compound on that, I think when you ask that question, homie, understand the phenology of a whitetail buck, like his life cycle. So estrus, traditionally, does don't come into estrus until 5th is early, really, because that's when bucks traditionally start chasing. There are always anomalies, and Matt and Jesse have had success using estrus in scrapes. However, that's after, rut or during rut. I highly recommend never to use any type of estrus, imitation estrus, hot doe before November. It doesn't make sense. A deer is going to smell it and not understand it. It's not right, okay? But to what Grant was saying and how Matt and Jesse have used it in the past, bucks will revisit those scrapes. You'll find them fire back up because they're seeking those last hot does. So I think, yes, your deer survived, your hit lister survived, you didn't catch up with them during the quote-unquote rut. We're coming into that secondary cycle. He's run down, but he's a big mature deer. He's seeking out the last hot does. By adding estrus to a scrape in mid-November, you're giving yourself an opportunity. You're giving him a reason to stick around now, right? Boom, there's a doe in estrus. Oh, it's one of the last ones. Now you have a chance at him maybe staying closer to that because he wants to try to find that doe. But I would never put it in, even before like the 10th of November. I don't think I'd ever put estrus into a scrape, me personally. Other guys have their own methods and methodologies. This is just what we do.
Yeah, I've never had any luck with any estrus scent or anything like that. I don't use it, so I guess if you don't use it a lot, then you're not going to have luck with it. But I tried it for a long time. But I was thinking about when I was trying it, I don't know what the hell I was doing out there anyway. So it's probably a lot of compounding factors to my
It's like the lottery, man.
Non-success.
I want to win the lottery, but you have to play to win.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all these things that are out there. You never had success with it because you never used it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've heard of people like, the classic, I just threw Tink 69 on my boots and I walked right to my stand in like a zigzag pattern and this 187 just popped out right in front of me at 13 yards and it whacked him. I feel like
the good old boy story. Yeah.
The good old boy story. Yep.
I feel like
I know that.
There's a lot of those out there, man. Every deer is different. There's probably some deer that gets horned up. He's like, oh, yeah, the old 69 girl's out. I remember her from last year.
Yeah.
She's prime.
I'll tell you this, though. So a lot of people say they got lucky, but people who work hard get lucky more often. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are both two of the most humble men out here. I probably have the just equally as humble sitting right here next to me. And sometimes people dismiss success off as luck, but the guys that work hard often seem to get lucky a little more often, right?
The only way I can kill is luck. I got to have a ass load of that shit.
You got like 190 some inches of it.
I got to have a lot of luck, man, because it's I wish someone would follow us around and film everything, and then people would be like, these motherfuckers ain't killing anything. They ain't killing anything. There's no way they're going to kill anything.
About shot a 138 pointer 4 minutes before a 190.
The scope's on him.
If that ain't luck,
The scope's on him, and I'm like, nah, shit.
yeah, just passes 138. You're a dumbass. You've been bitching for how long?
But we went. You got to see homie's legs on the last trail camera pool. I thought I was gonna have to carry him out,
dude.
man.
Oh, it was. I wasn't even like winded. It was just my legs were gassed. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was
dude,
bad.
dude on the bike for like 35 minutes a day, just done out there. I'm like, well, 911. Here we go.
Jesse's worst enemy are trees. Oh, I wish people would follow you and Matt around.
Yeah, if that's a true story. I've told Matt multiple times, if somebody were to follow Matt and I around with a video camera, we would have a reality TV show because it is absolutely. I was cutting a tree down this year to make a shooting lane. It falls on top of me. 2 years ago. No,
2 years ago.
4 years ago.
Was it?
It was 4 years ago.
Jesus, that was a long
it was
time.
in November, and we were hanging a new set to kill a deer, and we cut a tree down, and it knocked me out. Just cold out, black out.
Blacked out.
So I get this video from Matt, and Jesse's knocked out freaking cold. And I'm like, dude, don't you think you should check on him? No, good friend of Matt's like, first instinct, I got to take a video of this guy. Holy. And you killed out of that stand. Yep. Jesus, yeah. The old knockout stand.
He said,
But
yep.
I just want to bring that up because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that you got to be perfect to kill these deer. You got to do everything right. And somehow we kill every year. And it's a disaster.
That battery debacle we had that we talked about a couple episodes ago.
When you put all
Epic.
the same batteries in your pocket.
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
We had 16 batteries in the
Dude,
pot.
615.
50%.
It's
Yeah.
like basic probability.
yeah.
One of these marbles is black. The other 15 are red.
I'm
except
like,
for
I
their-
only got to pick 8 good ones out of 16. Nope. Mosquitoes are biting us and shit. We're like, didn't hang anything.
No, we woke up at 5 in the morning, go out there. It's 6:15. We're heading home with 2 less cameras out in the woods than we started the day with.
That's how it goes sometimes. We got
He's
a
like-
battery tester
He's like,
now.
yeah, the wife will be happy you're home early. I'm like, yeah, but
There's always a positive, man. You got to stay positive. But yeah, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a mad scientist. You just got to put work in and get lucky.
But if
That's
you
what it
run
is.
mock scrape like these guys, it's
Yeah, I
gonna help
know.
your chances.
It's going to help you out a lot. So if you guys haven't heard during this podcast, these guys are super knowledgeable. Their YouTube content's incredible. You can learn a ton from that. The Moultrie series you guys just released an ass load of knowledge in there for people that want to understand running trail cameras on a higher level to pattern deer and kill them. You know, that's a lot of people. Well, I just running trail cameras to pattern deer, but then it never happens. You know what I mean? You don't. You're out there. You get the deer pictures, but you never can put the pieces together, and
They're
that's
not-
like.
They're not looking at the weather underground
Yeah.
and back it all up. They're not looking at the way he's coming in. They're not looking at the doe pictures.
They're not running it on video. You know what I mean? There's a lot of steps that you guys are doing that's different, and it shows in your success in October. And mock scrapes, the reason we had you on is last year we're sitting here, like homie said, the bucks are daylight, and you're sharing it, and we're like, we ain't got shit going on right now, dude.
Yeah.
These guys got bucks daylight and like a mug, and we got nothing. What are we doing different? And then we're like, well, they got mock scrapes going.
They're like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna hunt tonight.
Yeah. I'm like, we got no mock scrapes going, so we gotta try it. That's what we're trying. We'll see how it goes this year. It might work, might not.
Before we
but-
wrap this up, Cody, I want to ask you a question. If
I don't know, this seems bad.
I'm gonna make a bet if you take it. I've never grown my beard out longer than like my 5 o'clock shadow. If I kill a deer before you, you have to
Terrible
shave.
bet.
You have to,
That is a terrible bet.
you have to shave your beard. If you do before me, then I will let it grow out for 40 days.
No,
I'm gonna be gone the first
There's-
13 days of
no,
October.
no.
You have a head start.
I still ain't got a
You
shot in
get to
hell.
hunt 13 days.
Garrett, you're solid because he's a gun hunter.
Yeah, I don't kill till gun season. Yeah, what day's muzzleloader season this year? That's what I need to know. That's my best chance.
You're not taking that bet.
Ah, man, that's
All right,
a trash bet.
Do you and Grant go 50-50, switch every other hunt?
If it depends on how my elk hunt goes, but usually we do. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's like
I'm out. I'm
Oh,
out.
come on.
I'm out. Can't do it. That's a garbage bet. I got better odds at the bar slots.
Slots or sluts?
So, well, either one.
I thought I'd get you to bite on that.
No, I can't do that. I mean, the beard isn't that big of a deal, but I just know I'll lose, and then I'll just. Be
I
like,
would literally contemplate
I'm a failure.
eating my first tag on like a a small deer just to watch you shave your freaking beard. Grant and I would have a powwow and be like, all right, this 2-year-old just doesn't look like he's going to turn into
Yeah.
Cole, I mean, he's a Cole buck.
I got the wide 6 in my back pocket. If it goes too hard, I got 2 buck tags. I'll take down a 90-inch 6-pointer all day.
The white 6 is going down.
He's daylighting too. Me and homie were like, we're not shooting that. And I said, December 3rd ain't killed shit. He's like, it's gonna look pretty tasty out there. It's gonna look pretty tasty.
Always wanted a big 6 out here.
December 3rd, that thing looks real solid.
Yes.
All right, we got anything else?
I don't think
No
so.
other side bets?
Yeah. Side bet out of
I ain't betting on me killing anything. There's got to be a year where I don't kill shit, so I'm just prepared for it this year.
Are you guys going to Missouri this year?
No.
No?
We missed it. We missed opportunities up here.
No, but heavy daylight. And we knew.
Yeah.
On the way down there, I said, well, we're going to have some shooter daylight. And we just happened to have the mobile on the scrape tree. And Cody killed early in the morning. And we stopped at the gas station, got some ice and stuff for the cooler, going out for the afternoon hunt. And it's literally 4:37 or 4:30-ish. And mobile goes off. Cody said, here it is. Open it up, bud heavy, 25 yards from the stand.
Yeah. Perfect win. Everything.
Yeah,
money.
It would have been prime. And
But,
we would have probably actually hunted
Yeah,
there.
we knew that's the only place that he was hitting that property, so Bry would have been there because we didn't have anywhere else to hunt, really, because, everything's shut down and only one piece of private. So we'll see. I think late season's our best bet, to be honest with you. Rut or late season. Our late season should be gold, hopefully. We'll see. The new piece is real rough right now, but so many sheds on that thing, man. Unless they show up in January, like 30th, and they're shedding, they're just not there all year. It's probably my luck. I'm banking this property up. No trees, hella sheds.
I think the neighbors will be done hunting early, like middle of November, and then the pressure will be kind of laxed off, get through November, and then I think...
No gun hunting on the neighbors, either side. Help out.
We'll be in there with a gun.
Oh, yeah, I'll be right in the middle, slinging lead.
Out the wagon blind.
Yeah,
Homie just handed him new shotguns.
Yeah. I'm going to pull that thing right out in the center of that field and put it right in front of the guy that hung a tree stand.
The best thing about this place is it's already got junk shit everywhere.
Oh, yeah. There's junk machinery everywhere.
Everywhere.
Climb in one.
Yeah, they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, this is cool. Yeah. They're going to be like, yeah, this
Take
is just
a playbook
normal.
out of Matt and Jesse's playbooks.
When you were in that freezer or whatever you were last year, I was dying on Snap. I'm like, what is this guy doing?
We killed that 9-pointer. We used a bale of wire as a blind once. That was pretty cool. So we just find whatever works and make it work.
How many bucks have you guys in the last 5 years killed off the ground? Is it 5 or is it 6 off the ground?
I don't
I don't even know. I've lost count.
Enough.
I'm like, Jesse and Matt doing something stupid, gonna kill.
It's pretty.
Oh, yeah, he hopped in that square. The square thing.
I was like, he's gonna kill tonight. That's dumb as hell.
It's upsetting because we broke down this year, and the ground and pound spot we hung a tree stand. So
man,
we might just have to
never gonna kill there again.
We might just have to jump in the hole as another one for the memories. But we hung a tree stand there, so it's hard.
Mark my words, if there's a deer daylighting in October or November and Matt Bartlett has more than 3 days off and a fucking oil barrel, a 50-gallon drum, he's gonna sit in there and peekaboo a booner's ass. Just, hey, I'm sitting out in this oil barrel tonight. I got a deer on daylight, boys. I'm gonna go in there and whack his ass.
Yeah.
People like the 7th or 8th deer he's killed off the fucking
People
ground.
have these mobile
Unreal.
sets or whatever in the back of their truck. We just find like a hole or a bale of wire to hide behind.
A ditch.
Yeah, whatever we can.
That's all we
get.
got on the new property. Ditch banging for real.
Don't let Matt come on there. He will kill a buck on it.
This is set up just for you guys. Yeah, ditches and nothing else.
Treeless.
Yeah, there's like short trees. We hunt a lot of property with no trees.
Like-
a lot of bushes though.
I would say I'm looking for a bush.
Deep in it.
Bush cam.
The people stopped listening like 8 minutes ago. They're like, shut this shit off.
These guys are morons.
All right, you guys got anything to say before we leave?
Just we appreciate the hell out of you guys.
Oh, hell, we're at your studio recording a podcast
right?
for us. We appreciate you guys, man.
Yeah, the devil's in the details. Our image autopsy that's coming off, episode number 13. That's Phantom, and this is the most savage shit I've ever seen. So I didn't believe Matt and Jesse until they gave me all the footage and all the trail camera data, but this is nuts. They got Phantom on their first picture on October 18th. Phantom is a 168-inch deer with a 6-inch drop tine that they killed off the ground at 20 yards. And Jesse laid it all down. Matt got the credit again, like a fucker. But they killed him. They got the first trail camera picture on the 18th. Got another picture on the 27th. Got another picture on the 6th or the 7th. And they killed him on the 16th, which I believe was the opening day of gun season. Listen to this, everybody. And this is what I mean by the devil's in the details. That deer showed up every 9 days. They got a picture on the first of the 9-day cycle, second, third, and on the fourth 9-day cycle day, they picked up and they said, this deer's coming in here every 9 days. The fourth 9-day cycle, they got him with a gun.
That's nuts.
That is nuts. That's why you should
That's
analyze
something
your
that you're
trail
not
camera
even
pictures.
thinking about. You're like, man, 9 days. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, he's here. He's back. You don't.
Every 9 like clockwork.
That's cool.
So that just goes to show you, if you're hunting a small property or a property that's quote unquote junk by most people's standards during, November, man, all you need is that tree. All you need is that 1 day. So go out there and make something happen. You can't kill them sitting on the couch. So that's my word of advice, I guess.
All right. You know what we normally say, right?
Yeah.
Leave a legacy. Always do the right thing. And Whitetail Legacy's out.